today we blessed to have Mr. Sandeep EM. He is currently a research associate at Indian Statistical Institute, Tezpur, Assam. He completed his PhD from Kerala School of Mathematics, Calicut, and his research area is number theory. Sandeep completed his MSc from ISER Trivandrum. He actually he didn't he has done BTech rather than BSc in mathematics, and after BTech from National Institute of Technology Calicut, he has got job as a software engineer in Accenture, Bangalore, and he stood there around 3 years, I think, and he went back to the field of mathematics and then pursued PhD and all that. Now continuing his research. I'm very sure that today will be really a fruitful experience for all of you. And linear algebra is a very important topic for any competitive examination in mathematics. So I'm sure that today's session on linear algebra will be certainly useful, will be helpful for you to crack many questions from this area in the competitive examinations. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Sandeep for joining with us. I welcome everyone again to this program, and again you all. Thank you. Welcome again. Welcome, Sandeep.
Yeah. Thank you, Vinod sir, for the generous introduction. I hope I can strive to meet your nice comments. Anyhow, to students, what I want to say is that it's a very nice opportunity that you are getting due to Vinod sir. Because of that, you're getting without doing any financial sort of without investing any money on it, you are getting these kind of nice sessions from different people who are subject experts in different parts of the world, and it is a very nice initiative of him, and I hope you guys continuously make use of all these benefits, and I thank Vinod sir for this nice opportunity. So I think we can start.
So yeah, so I'll start the session. So the basic thing is, so the topics of this today's talk would be problem solving session would be the basics of linear algebra, and this will be, so the focus has been for undergraduate students, and most of the problems are taken from JAM. So I expect. So I mean, the postgraduate students and people who are preparing for NET also can listen, but I don't know how useful it will be for you. But anyhow, you can listen, and hopefully we can discuss something in between. And so basically, yeah, so we will have a quick review around 5 to 10 minutes, because most of you would have already learned linear algebra, at least undergraduate level, and I hope that you would be familiar with most of the definitions and all. However, we'll give a quick review. So linear algebra basically started as solving system of linear equations. So just could somebody tell me whether I am audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, audible.
Okay, fine. So basically, you have system of linear equations, and you try to solve them, and that is how the subject developed. Although there is geometric flavor also in this. Anyhow, so I hope you are familiar with, say, linear equations of this form. Let me make it M1. So this is what we call as a system of linear equations in n unknowns, and there are m linear equations. So you will be familiar with the corresponding matrix notation for this. where you write the coefficient matrix as A. And so can somebody answer me, do we have, so given a system of linear equations, say Ax equal to B, is there a solution always for this? Or would somebody like to volunteer?
No, sir, there is not always a solution.
Yeah, somebody told me no, and what is the reason?
There are basically three conditions, no?
Three conditions. Okay, so so it's clear. Like, so say suppose I have a system like say, let me make it much easier. Suppose I have a system like this, and I am trying to very clearly, we know that there is no solution for this, right? What am I doing? 2x1 plus x2 is 1, and 0 times x1 plus 0 times x2 is 1. This is a absurd thing, right? So there are always systems with no solutions. Okay. Now suppose there is a system, there is a solution for your given system Ax equal to B. What can you say more about the system? So so suppose A is invertible. Okay, say A is invertible. You know, so for A to be invertible, let us assume that this is a let us assume that A is in by n real matrices, and X is say in Ra. Okay, so suppose A is invertible, then you can of course find X as A inverse of B. What if so this gives a unique solution. What about, can you give me a system which has two solutions, for example? Would somebody like to volunteer? Can there be a system with exactly two solutions?
No, sir.
No, it's either unique or infinitely many solutions, right?
Yes, correct. But why so? Any guesses? Any intuitive guesses? Yeah, you're right, but there should be some reason why it is happening like that, right?
Sir,
Yeah.
what we find is rank here, no? So
Yeah,
when
what
we
we are
put
finding here is
so when we put some arbitrary constant to any other values, we can find infinitely many solutions as such.
yeah, there are yes, when you put when your rank is not exactly your number of unknowns or number of rows, then of course you can plug in arbitrary values, and then you can get infinitely many solutions. But geometrically, if you think, so what are these system of equations? So let me just give you some just something. Just say this is there, and say there is 4y plus 2z equal to 3. What are these two? These two are basically planes in 3 dimensions, right? So when two planes in 3 dimensions, or when two lines or two or more lines meet, what do we get? Either if two lines meet, you get a unique point. If a line and a plane meet, still you might get the whole line, or otherwise you will get a single point again. What if two planes meet? If two planes meet, you will get a line. So there cannot be, so either you are getting one solution or you are getting infinitely many solutions. Is that clear for you?
Yes, sir.
Geometric picture? Yeah. Okay. So as you told, one can also interpret in terms of the rank. One can say that if the rank is less than the order of the matrix, then of course you can plug in arbitrary values and solve. Yeah. So there could be systems without solution, and if there are systems, there could be unique solution and infinitely many solutions. And I hope you would know that suppose if a system is said to be consistent if system has at least one solution. Okay. In that case, you also have that rank of so a system is said to be consistent, or a system is consistent if and only if rank of A is rank of the augmented matrix A augmented with B. Yeah, so this is clear from this example which I gave. Here the rank of the matrix is 1, but the rank of the augmented matrix is 2. In such case, you can get no solutions. Okay. However, if your right side was 0, so B2 was 0, then your rank of matrix is 1 and rank of augmented matrix is also 1. So in that case, you will have infinitely many solutions. How do we have infinitely many solutions? Because you have 2x1 plus x2 equal to 1, whereas the other equation is nothing but 0. So there is nothing contributing to it. So once your x2 is free, your x2 can be anything, and x1 will be whatever you get out of it. Okay. So you can assign any value you want for x2, and accordingly you will get an x1. So you have infinitely many solutions. Yeah. So I hope that you know what is the definition of the rank. It is the actually there are two things called row rank and column rank. Row rank would be the maximum number of linearly independent rows of your matrix, and column rank will be the maximum number of linearly independent columns of your matrix. Both of these are same. Okay. And what do I mean by linear independence? So maybe I'll just talk something about vector space theory also. Everybody, I hope, knows what is the definition of vector space. So in vector space, you have a addition operation, you have a scalar multiplication, which comes from, so a vector space is always defined over a field, and you take your scalars from that field, and then you multiply a vector, and then that multiplication should again lie inside your vector space. And the addition of two vectors also should lie inside your vector space. And then there are some other properties like distributive property, etc. And there should be zero vector, and there should be some distributive property, etc. So anyhow, so I hope everybody is familiar with it. Now, subspaces are there. Subspaces are basically, so you have a vector space V plus dot F. Okay, I hope everybody knows what that means. V plus dot F. This means that your vector space is coming over a field F, and it has a vector addition plus, and it has a dot coming from a scalar multiplication. So suppose you have a vector space like that, then you have a notion of subspace in that, and W, a subset of V, is said to be a subspace if W is again a vector space under the same operations. Okay. The addition operation should be closed inside W, and scalar multiplication also should be closed inside W. There is an easy criteria for determining if something is a subspace. You take two elements of your W, and if W1 plus W2 is in W, and CW1 is in W, then you can easily conclude that your subspace is in fact your subset is in fact a subspace. And maybe I'll start with define. So linear independence. So before that, let me just say what is span. So let S be a non-empty subset of a vector space V. Then span of S is defined as the intersection of all those subspaces subspace. Okay. Subspace is W of V, which contains S in that. We also, I hope you are all familiar that one can also express this in the following way: that you take any linear combination of Ci, Si, where Ci's come from field, Si's are elements of your S, and your N runs over all natural numbers. All entries of such form is lying in your span. One can conclude that these two are same. Okay. Now, a non-empty subset is S is said to be The subset of V is said to be linearly dependent if there exists. I hope you all know this. If there exists scalars C1 etc. up to Cn and vectors S1 etc. up to Sn such that summation Ci Si equal to 0 for Ci is for at least one Ci non-zero. If there exists such elements, then you say that S is linearly dependent. Otherwise, if one cannot find such a choice of points in your S, then you say that S is linearly independent. Okay, and and the maximum linearly independent subset of a vector space is called as its basis. Okay, it's called as a basis. So you can have more than one linearly independent. I mean, you can have more than one maximal linearly independent subset. So a basis can be defined as, let me write it. Basis for V can be defined as maximal linearly independent subset of S, a subset of V. And the V is said to be finite dimensional if the cardinality of your basis is finite. And it's a known fact that if you take any two bases, their cardinality will be the same. Okay. And so now what else? So now a column. So if you take a matrix also, if you take the columns of matrix, then finite linear combinations of your matrices also span a vector subspace of your. Suppose your matrix is A is in M cross N of R, then column space of A is the linear combinations of Ai are equal to 1 to N. Ci's are in R, and this is column space of A. So these are columns. So basically, these are contained in Rn. Okay. Similarly, row space, you take the linear combination of rows, and that will be subset of Rn. Okay. So, and row rank of A is said to be the dimension of the row space, and column rank of A is said to be the dimension of the column space. Okay. So you know that column space and row space both are same, and they cannot exceed the minimum of m comma n, right? Okay. Now what else? So we have a concept of linear transformations. What's the time now? 2:23. Okay. So basically, suppose you have two vector spaces V and W over F. T is said to be a linear transformation if T of V1 plus V2 satisfies TV1 plus TV2, and T of CV satisfies CTV for every V1, V2, and for every C and V. Yeah. And if you define your because of the linearity of T, if you know your T value of your T on the basis elements of V, then you can extend T completely to the whole vector space V. I hope it's clear for everyone. Okay, so we will see more about all these things once we start doing problems. So let us start with one problem. Yeah, so far I have been making the noises. Now I want you people also to start. Okay, so start reading the first question. So we consider the following system of linear equations: x plus y plus 5z equal to 3, etc. And the system is consistent if what happens? So could somebody read the whole thing and give some answer for this?
Sir, M is 4 and K is not 5, then it will be consistent.
Sorry. Can you repeat? I got lost. Yeah.
M
What do
is
you say?
4. M is 4
Okay.
and K is not 5, then it is consistent.
M is 4. Just 1 second. M is 4 and K is not 5. So 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4. This would be 3, 5, and K is not 5 means K minus 5 is non-zero. How would that be consistent? Consistent means you should have a solution. So suppose I subtract this. So what I mean to say is, suppose you subtract the third 3 minus 2. What will you get? 4 minus m into z is k minus 5. So if your m is 4, then 0 times z is something non-zero. You told k not equal to 5, right? This is absurd, right? Do you get some z? Any z? Will it satisfy this? Sorry?
Yes, sorry, sir. No, it would be equal to 5.
Yeah. When you want a solution, you want to demand that k should be 5. Correct, no? So when m is equal to 4, if solution has to happen, solution has to be there, then k has to be 5. Otherwise, this will lead to absurd thing. Okay. So first of all, let us take it one by one. So if m is not equal to 4, so maybe I'll write the matrix once. You can think meanwhile. I'm also writing the augmented matrix. So yeah, so could somebody do some Gaussian elimination for me here?
So it will be 1, 0, 10 minus m, 1, and then 0, 1, m minus 5, 2.
1, 0, m minus 5, 2. Why 1, 0 should be?
Sir, I have given the final answer, right? I mean, after all.
Oh. Okay, where is 1, 0, m minus 5, 2 then?
Sir, 0, 0, 4 minus m and k minus 5.
0, 0, 4 minus m and k minus 5. Yeah,
And in the first row, it will be 1, 0, 10 minus.
Yeah. Oh, first row you want to change?
Yes, 1, 0.
First row, okay. Okay, and then tell me once again. First row, what you want?
1, 0, 10 minus m and 1.
10 minus m and 1.
And then
Okay.
0, 1, m minus 5 and 2.
0. So I think you better tell me what is the operation you are doing, and I will do accordingly. What is the operation you are doing?
In the first one, from the start, we will send R2 to R2 minus R1.
R2 to R2 minus R1. Okay, that will, so let us go one by one. Let's not hurry. So that will give me 0, 1, m minus 5 and 2. Correct?
Yes. And then R3. R3 minus R1.
R3 minus R1 would give me 0, 0, minus 1, 0, 0, minus 1 and k minus 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Then top one, you don't want to do anything, right? This is enough actually. To tell our...
Isn't it 0, 1, minus 1?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, 0, 1, minus 1, k minus 3. Yeah. So now tell me, what do you want to say?
Then, sir,
we will do one more subtraction. That will be easier, no?
yes, R3 minus R2.
Again, R3 minus R2, right? Okay, so if I do that, I will get 0, 0. What will I get? 4 minus m, right?
Yes.
K minus, yeah. Yeah, so basically, yeah. Now, what do you want to say?
Yes, sir. Last I also reduce R1 by R2 by subtracting R2.
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. So this is fine. This is actually what we want. So I will take it up from here. So basically, what we are getting here is minus 1 z is k minus 5. So as long as your m is not 4, your matrix, your matrix is invertible. This is clear, right? Because it's a upper triangular matrix with all the entries non-zero on the diagonal. So A is invertible. So surely there is a solution given by A inverse of B when m is not 4. So let us immediately say that m not equal to 4 is a good thing which we want. Okay, system is consistent. Now this is a multiple answer question, so there could be more answers. So what if k is not equal to 5? If k is not equal to 5, we saw that k not equal to 5 could lead to a problem, right? What was the problem? Hello? Earlier we saw that
If m equals to 4 and k is not equal to 5.
yeah, when m is equal to 4 and k is not equal to 5, what is the problem? There will be an absurd system, right? With 0, 0, 0 on the denominator and 1 on the, something non-zero on the right. So the problem here is that you get something like 0 times x plus 0 times y plus 0 times z is some non-zero number. So this will say that, or in other words, rank of A is strictly less than the rank of A augmented by B. So this is, so one can conclude that B is wrong because m equal to 4 case can happen. Now again m equal to 4 is the problem case, so C also one can omit when k is not equal to 5. Correct, no? So is this clear, or actually it would be good if I can't see you guys, no? So it will be good if you guys can talk also. There's no harm in that. So what if k is equal to 5? So if k is equal to 5, so there are two situations when k equal to 5. Either m is not equal to 4 and m is equal to 4. If m is not equal to 4, is there any problem? Is the system
There is no
consistent?
problem.
There is no problem because as I told, you can take inversion, you can simply find solution. Or in other words, if you want, rank of A is rank of A augmented with B. So there's no problem. What if m is equal to 4? What will be the rank of A in that case?
2.
Both 2.
Yes. And what is rank of A augmented with B?
It is also 2.
It's also 2. So both are same, right? So that is also consistent, right? So D is also a good choice. So basically the answer for this is A and D. Is this clear for you?
Yes.
Sorry. Is this clear for you?
Yes.
Yes, sir. It is clear.
Yeah. So you have to see, this session is for you. Okay. So I can go on talking. But if somebody has to benefit out of it, you have to speak aloud. Okay. So we'll just see one more problem. Or maybe this, or maybe we'll come back to it if we have time. It's a similar problem. Now something on vector spaces, subspace, linear independence, etc. We can read the third problem. So M is given to be a 4/3 real matrix, and E1, E2, E3 is the standard basis of R3. So I hope everyone knows what is the standard basis, right? R3 has a I hope everybody knows what is the standard basis. This is the, maybe you can think of this as a vector in R3, but I always prefer to write this as column vectors because that will be convenient when we are doing operations with matrices. And E2 is again 0, 1, 0, and this is 0, 1, 0. E3 is 0, 0, 1. I write it in the following way. Okay, and any element ABC in R3 can be written as A times 1, 0, 0, B times 0, 1, 0 plus C times 0, 0, 1. Correct, right? So this E1, E2, E3 is the basis for R3. Okay. Now my question is, and also just tell me one thing. Suppose I have a matrix, say A11. Let me just put it as ABCD. Suppose I have ABCD, and if I multiply it with E1, okay, E1 in the sense even the column vector, what will I get?
Column 1.
So, yeah, column 1. Yeah. So in that case, E1 is in R2. Okay. So everybody knows that, right? When you multiply a matrix with the corresponding standard E1, then you will get the first column. In general, MEJ will give you the jth column of M. Fine. How do we see that? Maybe I'll just quickly say, we are losing time. So 1, 0 is the column vector corresponding to E1. So what is this exactly? So you should start seeing this as 1 times column AC, sorry. 1 times column AC, 0 times column BD. In general, suppose you have something like AX equal to B, then you should start seeing it as A1 times first column of A1. Suppose A is something like A1, A2, etc. AN. These ANs are actually columns. Okay. So then one should start seeing them as, I hope you should be already seeing. And this is equivalent to say AN is equal to B. Is this fine for everybody? What we are doing, we are seeing whether, like, suppose AX equal to B, that means that there exists linear combinations such that linear combination of your columns with coefficients being x1, etc. up to xn, such that x1, a1, etc. is B. That is, B lies in the column space of A. Is this clear for everybody? Or maybe I can put some examples which will could somebody tell what is the first column of this product of matrices? Can you read this? First column I am asking. Without doing any, multiplication. What we normally do, we take 0 times 1, then 0 times 0, and 0 times 1. This is how we do, right? So I'm expecting more involvement from your side. Even if you don't understand, you can say. So what I want you to think is, consider, so as of now, just consider the first column of that. What is first column? 101. What is this? I told you already that this is 1 times 010 plus 0 times 002 plus 1 times 053. Right? And what is that? That is nothing but 0, 6, and what is it?
3.
Right? Yeah. So that is what I am putting here. Yeah. So what I'm doing, I'm putting 0, 1, 3 here. Did I do some mistake? There should be 5. Yeah. You're adding the first and third column. So you get 0, 6, and 3. Could somebody tell me what is the second column quickly? We are running out of time. What is the second column of this product of matrices? What do I want here? 0.
1,
Okay.
2.
So yeah, but what I want you to see is that basically this one and this, there is this one here and this one here. So what that is saying is that you have to add this column and this column. Okay, and then you will get the sum would be this column. So you don't need to, do the computation each and every time. So you just see them as linear combination of columns. So if I just want to add these two columns, simply I can say 0, 1, and 2, right? That's what I did. What about the third column?
0, 0, 0.
0, 0, 0, right? Everybody is familiar with this kind of computations, right? Because we will be using this heavily. Yeah, so let us come back to our question. So would somebody like to answer this? It's very easy, I think.
Sir, I think
hello?
A and D options.
A and B, sorry, 1 second. So yes, you're saying that A and D is true?
No, sir, sorry. A is
Sir,
false.
D.
D only. Only D.
D only.
D only, fine. Why is A wrong? Tell me.
Sir, because M1 rank is 1, so column rank would also be 1. So two columns cannot be linearly independent.
Yeah, correct. Very nice. Okay. And what if rank of M equal to 2? Why can't, why is D wrong?
Because,
Can't
sir,
really tell which one is independent. So
Yeah, it could be M1 or ME3 as well, right? Yeah. So by the same argument, B and C are wrong. However, if you know that your matrix has rank 3, then any given two choice of columns should be linearly independent. This is fine, everybody, right? Okay, because I'm not able to see faces, no? So it will be good if somebody doesn't know, if somebody doesn't understand, they have to tell. Okay. Because people who understood will not say anything. People who don't understand will only be talking. Would only be will not be benefiting.
Sir, can you explain this once more? This how A, B, C are wrong.
How A, B, sorry. Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. So rank of M is what is it? So rank of M is 1 means that how many columns can be linearly independent? Rank of M is same as column rank of M, right?
Yes, sir.
What is column rank's definition? It's a maximal number of linearly independent columns of M, right?
Yes, sir.
So if the column rank is 1, that means that you cannot find two linearly independent columns.
Okay. And what about B?
Now ME1 is the first column. You know that, right? ME1 is the first column of your matrix, and ME2 is the second column. Okay. So A is Now what? You have any other questions?
B also. How maybe to rank 2, then ME1, ME2 is correct, right?
Yeah, but it is still possible that the matrix is 4 by 3, right? So,
Yes.
So suppose my matrix is say 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 0. This is a 4 by 3 matrix. What is its rank?
2.
What is its rank? Its rank is 2. Now what about ME1 and ME2? Is it linearly independent?
Yes. No.
This is ME1, right? ME1 and ME2 are same, right? It's not linearly
Yes.
independent.
Yes.
So that so what I did was, so if you told me the same thing for C, I could have still put that 1000 here.
Okay, sir.
So it should, then again the same C you can contradict because of that. Okay, so but however, if rank of n is 3, all 3 columns have to be linearly independent. So D is true. Right?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so now we have one more question. This could be good. So let V be a non-zero vector space over a field F. So whenever you talk about field, you can consider F to be either R or C. Okay, and let F subset of V be a non-empty set, and we consider the following properties of S. What is the property 1? Property 1 is saying that if you take any vector subspace W of V and any map F from this subset S to W, so maybe I will just so we have V here, we have W here. Now you have subset S here. So you have a map from S to W. You have map here. What the first property says that if any map F from S to W, any map F from S to W, you can extend it to a linear map from B to W. Okay. What does that mean? It says that any map, so suppose you fix some W vector space, okay, and you consider any map F from S to W, then this is any map, okay. Now what they are saying is that this could be extended to the whole of V linearly in a linear map. That is, F tilde is a linear map. That means that F tilde, when restricted to S, becomes F. Right? So that is the one property. So let us call sets with such property as S1. Okay. Now let us consider another condition. So, or maybe let us look at the options here itself. So what are the options regarding 1 here? Options regarding 1 are A and B. So property 4 says the span of S is B. Does 1 imply 4? So 1 imply 4. So 4 says that span of S is B. And 1 says that if you have any map from S to W, you can extend it to a linear map on the whole V. Is this true? So the properties are clear to you, right? What they are asking, suppose you have a set S1 which satisfies the property 1. Does the span of S1 equal to V?
So need not be true.
It need not be true, right? Yeah. So can you give some examples for that?
I think so. We can take like R W to be R4 and
You want
S
okay.
V to be R4 as well.
Okay.
In the subset, we take just the E1 and E2.
Just E1 and E2. Fine. And you want to say any particular, so you want to contradict, right? So what is the contradiction? So so any map, suppose I take any map from S to R4. Okay. So what is the contradiction? You tell me what is it? So I should not be able to, you should give me some map which I cannot extend to the whole of R4.
It's a map I have to think, or like I think it will.
Sorry, actually you need to prove that any map could still be what you need to prove is now the set is not spanning the whole of V. You need to prove that any linear map F, if I take, you can extend it to the whole of V. That is what you should do. Yeah. So you should. So you understood. So what we have to prove, given any F from S to R4, we can extend F to whole of R4. Right. So
Right.
you can. So I think I mean you can just tell me what is in your mind.
So in my mind is that because E1 and E2 are like only two of the basis element for R4, if we extend the definition to E3 and E4 as well, and since they are linearly independent, they should not affect each other because F is a linear map basically. So F is a map basically, so they should not affect. So we can extend them directly, and that then this
Yes. I understood. Yes. I understood what you want to say. So basically, what is he saying is that suppose you have defined, say, f of E1 as some, say, R4, right? Say let it be some alpha 1. It's in R4. And suppose f of E2 is some alpha 2. Now, he's saying that we can extend f to the whole of R4. How? So we have only captured two bases now. There are still E3 and E4. So he is telling assign any value you want to f of E3, say some alpha 3, and f of E4, I assign some alpha 4. Then once these are known, so what did I do? E1, E2, E3, E4, I assigned values for f. Now, if I want to define f on the whole, or let me call it f tilde, on the whole V, I can assign it as summation. So V will be, so when I say V, I can always write V as some Ci Ei, right? I equal to 1. I equal to 1 to 4 in this case. So what precisely the linear map would be f tilde of V defined as summation I equal to 1 to 4 Ci f of Ei, which is nothing but Ci alpha I. So we showed that given any f in this subset which he told, you can extend it to the whole of R4 in a linear manner. Okay. So he is saying that it's not necessary that the set should be spanning the whole of V. Even without that, we can do it. Okay. So this says that 1 implies 4 need not be correct. Okay. Is that okay for you? So what about 1 implies 3 then?
It will
1
be
implies
true.
3 is true? You
Sir,
think it is true?
correct. It is correct.
Yeah. Can you say why it is correct? Suppose S is not
Sir,
linearly independent.
this is the extension theorem.
Yeah, this is problems related to extension theorem. But you tell me precisely, if you can tell precisely why S need not be linearly independent, or what if S is linearly dependent, what is the problem then? So you have to prove that 1 implies 3, right?
So we can do it by contradiction method. Like if there is an element alpha in S, which is a linear combination of some other elements, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n in S, then alpha can be written as summation Ci alpha I equals to 1 to n. Then if f of alpha is not equals to summation...
Alpha is elements in S, right? Alpha is elements in S, right?
Yes. Alpha is alpha I are elements in S. So if f of alpha is not equals to summation I equals to 1 to n f of alpha I, then it cannot be extended to a linear.
I agree. Yes. So let me just put. So you have told it formally. I will just put it as an example. So maybe that will be easier. So suppose I take S as. So in the same situation, what situation we are in? R4 to R4, right? Suppose my S is say E1 and 2E1. Okay. Now I put f of E1 as say some. Let me take E1 itself, and f of 2E1. I define it as 3E1. Okay. Okay. So the thing is, what is happening now? F of 2I should, if f was linear, means f tilde restricted to f is still f. So f has to be linear inside the span of S. So f of 2E should be satisfying 2f of E1. But what we are getting here is 2f of E1 is 2E1, but I am defining it as 3E1. So this is wrong. So what he was telling is that suppose we have a linear combination of elements. So suppose we have an smallest in capital S, which can be non-zero linear combination of other elements of S. Then we can find some f which doesn't satisfy linearity. Such f's we cannot extend it linearly to R4. Is that clear? So this is why by contradiction we need 1 implies 3. Is that fine? Or should I repeat again? Okay, if nobody is answering, then you will be losing. I will be continuing. So the second property, let us go to the second property. So for any vector space W over F and any two linear maps F and G from V to W, such that F is equal to G on F, then the property of the set is that F is equal to G on the whole of V. Let us just use some space here. If we have time, I will explain again, but since we are running out of time, I will have to be slightly fast. So what is the again, can you see any, so let us check the condition C. Does 2 implies 3?
I think no, sir. It is false.
You think this is false? Okay.
Because
So,
sir, because sir,
once
if we
again, let
take
me
S,
let me just read it once. Yeah. So let me just reformulate this in another easier way. So even if I replace G by 0, does it matter? Because if I take, instead of considering Fx equal to Gs, I can consider F minus G of S to be equal to 0 on whole of S, right? This is equivalently saying F minus G of S is equal to 0 on S. So it suffices to consider G to be 0. Or maybe I'll rewrite it again. For any W and any linear map from V to W, that is saying Fs equal to 0 on S, we have f of V equal to 0 on the whole of V. Yeah. So suppose there is some S like that, then does that imply that S is linearly independent?
no, sir, it doesn't.
Yeah. So tell me why is that?
Sir, suppose we take S to be any spanning set bigger than the this basis, then we will always have this.
So also we
Yes.
can take S equals to B. That will work.
Yeah, just 1 second. So yeah, if I take something bigger than, yes. So I'm starting with a linear map, and now if I take S to be something bigger than a basis or something like that, then still
Then sir,
yeah, as you told, S can be taken as V itself. I take S as V itself, then S is not linearly independent, but to take any linear map F on V, which is 0, it will be 0 on whole of V. Yeah, so this argument is fine. So I agree that C is wrong. Okay. So the final, so this is clear for everyone. So he contradicted by saying that you can choose S to be V itself. You can also choose anything which is bigger than, which is properly containing a basis. Right? Yeah. So now what is the left? Does 2 imply 4?
sir, it should be true, sir.
Yes. Otherwise, suppose tan of S is not V, then what is the problem? I can assign some non-zero value for some element there, right? For F.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what is the reason? So for 2 implies 4. So for people who did not understand, so the thing is, so suppose your span of S is strictly less than V, then there exists at least one basis element. Say V is spanned by some alpha 1, etc. alpha n. Suppose alpha n doesn't belong to span of S. Now, so F is 0 on whole of S, or F equal to G on whole of S. But since one can still alpha n is free, so I can choose an F. I can choose a value in the extension where F of alpha or F tilde of alpha n is not equal to 0. This will violate my property of the set. Okay? So this means 2 implies 4 has to be true. Fine. So maybe I've written it in a very bad way. Now can you think about question 5? So if V1, V2, V3 is a linearly independent set of vectors in a vector space over R, then which one of the following sets is also linearly independent? So people who have already been responding, I ask them to wait and give others a chance. Maybe I will start simply by writing, but I want some people to join. Okay. So what are we checking? Let us take the first option. We are checking that A is linearly independent, right? So I'm checking if summation C1 into V1 plus V2 minus V3 plus V2 into that entry plus V3 into that entry is 0. Does it imply that C1, C2 and C3 are 0? So let me write everything in terms of V1. Then I will get C1 plus 2C2, right? Tell me if I am wrong somewhere. V1 into this thing plus V2 into C1 plus C2 plus 4 C3 plus V3 into minus C1 plus 3 C2 0 is 0. Right? But V1, V2 and V3 are already linearly independent. So I know that C1 plus 2 C2 plus 5 C3 and C1 plus C2 plus 4 C3 and minus C1 plus 3 C2 is also 0. In other words, if you write it in matrix way, 1, 2, 5, 1, 1, 4, minus 1, 3, 0 times C1, C2, C3 is 0. So if your matrix is invertible, then you can conclude that C1, C2 and C3 are identically 0, which will mean that your set A is linearly independent. But what is this matrix? Is this invertible? So to check invertibility, it's also enough to check your rank is 3. Okay. You can clearly see I will not spend much time on this. I subtract -1, -1. And if I add a row, so what I did here is R2 minus R1. And here I am doing R3 plus R1. And I will get 0, 5, and 5. You can see that R2 and R3 are multiples of each other. So the determinant is 0. In that case, there exists non-zero C1, C2, C3, for which this linear combination becomes 0. So A is not linearly independent. Right? So instead of writing all these things, it is just enough to check. So if we are doing for the next case B, okay, what do you need to do? You just need to, this matrix is eventually what we need, right? This matrix. So we just start directly, we start writing that matrix. What is that? So I have, so this is V1 minus V2, right? First one. So let me just get familiar with the column linear combinations. So you will see that the first column of this product will be V1 minus V2. And the second column will be 0, 1, minus 1. This will give me V1 minus V2, and then V2 minus V3, and V3 minus V1. So what is V3 minus V1? I should have 1 here, I should have -1 here, and 0 here. So I just need to check whether this matrix is invertible. Is this matrix invertible? So I add, I get 1 minus 1. This is not, right? Yeah. And yeah, so what about C? What about C? So A and B are wrong. What about C?
Dependent.
Dependent, right? Without doing any computations, can you immediately say?
Yes,
There are
sir.
4 vectors, no,
Yes.
so it would be
Only 3
linearly
of them can
dependent.
be linearly independent.
Correct. So you may not even do anything. Okay. So this is a multiple choice question. So one has to be correct. So all 3 are wrong. So D has to be correct. You verify it. Okay. So what I want to say is that, so immediately once you see this thing, you can start writing the matrix. So suppose, how do you write the matrix? The matrix should be, in the fourth case, it would be 1, 1, 0. In the case of second, this one, it would be 0, 1, 2. And in the case of third one, it will be 3 times V1 plus 0 times V2 plus 1 times V3. So you can immediately, without doing all these writing C1, C2, C3 stuff, you can immediately check whether this matrix is invertible or not. Right? It's good to know it's good. Yeah, somebody has raised a hand. Was it by mistake? Okay, I'll continue. Maybe let me see. There is one question. Okay, it's a good question.
The Wi-Fi data is turned off. You have to turn on Wi-Fi to connect to a network first.
Yeah, so anyhow, let us. Let us consider this question. Question number 6. Consider the following group under matrix multiplication. Where H is given like this. And we are asked to find what is the center of this group. Or at least its isomorphic copy. So is it clear that this is a under matrix multiplication, this is a group? For example,
Yes.
Is it? Yeah. Can somebody say something? What if I take two?
Can you hear me? So I just got disconnected from the call. Just 1 second. Let me just join.
It's okay, Sandeep, now.
Yeah.
Hello, Sandeep.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah.
Am I
Am I audible?
Yeah, you have to mute one of your audios, otherwise echoes will be there.
Yeah.
It's fine, right? Now is there any echo? No, right?
Sandeep, the other device, sound from the other device is more good, I think.
Okay. Actually, I'm using. So if I'm using the other device, then I need to remove my
Take
headphones.
the voice from the other one. If possible, you can take the voice from the other one. That will be more clear, I think.
Okay. Then.
The screen.
Okay, then.
Screen is visible now.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. So let me just.
Yeah. So this is fine.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I will talk in this then. So is my screen visible now?
Yes. Screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we were talking about the group. Yeah. So since I don't have much time, I believe that you know how that this becomes a group. Let us see further about it. What is the center of this group? Let us go a little fast. So the center of the group is set of all G and G such that Gx equal to Xg for every X in G, right? So suppose my element in the matrix is, so suppose 1 A, B, 0, 1, C, 0, 0, 1 belongs to center of H, then it should commute with every element. So this will be a quick exercise for you. Can somebody fill it up very fast? What will be the first column here?
It's a 1 0 0.
1 0
Yeah,
0.
1 0. Yeah. Second column immediately. C
A
dash
plus
times
B.
1 1. Yeah.
A plus B.
P
1
plus
0.
Yeah, P plus A, and no other contribution from column 1, and only 1 0 from column 2. And the other thing is Q plus AR plus B, right? And then there is no contribution from column 1. There is R here. Then there is C, and there is 1. Fine. Yeah. So on the other hand, if I take, if I just switch it, so you just need to replace A by P and P by A. So that is the only thing which we need to do. One can see that if we replace P by A and Q by B and R by C, still P plus A remains invariant. That is, second entry of the column 1, row 1 is invariant. Even R plus C is invariant. Even in Q plus AR plus B, Q plus B is invariant. Instead of AR, what we get is, what do we get here? B plus PC plus Q, right? So my point is that so since if 1AB 01C 001 is in your center, then it has to ensure that AR equal to PC should happen for all P and for all R, right? Because this entry can be arbitrary entry of your group H, same as here. So one should allow for even situations where P is 0, P is, yeah, P, Q and R in R. So P can be 0. So if P is equal to 0, then AR, so suppose P equal to 0 and R equal to 1 is happening, then A has to be 0. Suppose P is 1 and R equal to 0, then what will happen? C equal to 0. So you will see that center of your group is nothing but elements of the form 1 0 1 0 0 1. So A is 0, C is 0. So these two places will be 0. And what you have here is B. B is the only thing which is left out. And B can run over all real numbers. Now, what do you think this group is isomorphic to? So the options were R minus 0 under multiplication, R under addition, then R square under addition, and then fourth D is some product of R plus and R minus 0 under multiplication. We have only
R.
Yeah, R
under addition.
Yeah, so can somebody, you are always answering, so I just want others also to involve. If nobody is answering, you can continue. Would anyone else like to answer? So there is one free variable B, right? So natural choice is C. Of course, C is not a possible because R2, there is no free variable R2 for becoming R2. So only possibility is either A or B. But B is allowed to be 0. So it doesn't look like A could be an answer. Okay, so this intuitively says that B could be the only choice remaining. But if you want to precisely say what exactly is the group isomorphism. So suppose you are claiming that R plus is it is isomorphic to R plus, then what is the group isomorphism? If nobody is answering, you can answer. The one who answered earlier, I don't know your name.
Sure.
This matrix going to be.
Sorry, matrix going to be, right? I didn't hear fully.
Yes.
Matrix going to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and why should that be a group isomorphism? So let me just call that matrix as some notation I need. Let me call it as some AB. P of AB going to B. So what will happen if I take phi of A B1 times B2? What is A of B? Yeah, tell me. So suppose I call this as AB, then what is A B1 times A B2? What is that matrix? So A B1 times A B2. So product of two matrices, correct? With entry here B1 and B2. Its product would be?
So A B1 plus B2.
This entry would be B1 plus B2. So it is A B1 plus B2. Okay. So note that this plus has come here. Okay. So when we did phi of A times B1, phi of A B1 times A B2, which is nothing but phi of A B1 plus B2. This is B1 plus B2. On the other hand, phi of A B1 times, so I don't know what is times here. I'm just putting star because we have not confirmed it as plus. So phi of A B1 is B1 and phi of A B2 is B2. So if phi is a group isomorphism, B1 star B2 should become B1 plus B2. So this way you can conclude your star is nothing but plus operation. Okay, so B is your right choice. Okay. So maybe this, I'll just move on to, there are more questions, but maybe 10 more minutes are there. I will just finish with this question then. Yeah. So just read the question. So T is an m by n matrix with real entries, and V is a subspace of m n cross PR, and V is a subspace of Mn cross PR defined by set of all x in Mn cross P such that Tx equal to 0. Right? So let us consider a map T. So suppose x is an element in Mn cross P. You take the image as Tx. Where will that lie? T is in M cross N. So T is in M cross N. Where will the image be? Yeah, somebody answer quickly. So did you get the question? So Tx is what? Yeah, M cross P, right? Yeah. So basically the multiplication takes a N cross P matrix to M cross P matrix. Okay. So let me just write it on top. 1 second. Let me just write it on top. And now you have a subspace V here, which under this map. So let me just call this as phi, okay, or maybe phi T. So under this same phi map, this goes to 0, right? That is the definition of V. So our question is, what is the dimension of V? So before going to that, suppose I have a collection of real M cross N matrices. What is its dimension?
M cross M into N.
M into N. Can you give me a basis for this? Or maybe for M cross 3, you can give me a basis. A standard basis.
Yeah, 1 0, or like first column 1 0 0, and then 0 0, and then all other zeros.
Yeah, first column 1 0, then everywhere else 0. This will be one element. So so people, if you're seeing this for the first time, then see that so 0 1 0 0 0 0. What else do we have? 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 0. And you get the idea, no? So I'll stop with the final entry. So this set, let me call this S. The span of S is nothing but all 2 cross 3 real matrices. How is that? If you have any A, B, C, D, E, F, then you can write it as A times. So let me call this as E11. Let me call this as E12, E13, like that. So this will be A times E11 plus B times E12 plus C times E13, so on, F times E23, right? Second row, third column, yeah. So this is in general true. So you can write any, so in general, suppose you have M cross N matrices, real matrices, then this is a standard basis for this space. And there are, how many of them are there? M into N. Okay, so if you're seeing this for the first time, you should maybe get familiarized. So this is because this is important for what we are going to do in this problem. So now we are not looking at M cross N, the matrices of M cross N. What we are looking is a subspace which under T goes to 0. So we want to know what is its dimension. So maybe let me just yeah. So what is, so suppose X belongs to V, what does that mean? X belongs to the kernel of this map, right? Kernel of phi is defined as set of all, what is the definition of phi? It's all those, so I'm X belonging to n cross P of R such that phi of X is 0, where the 0 is the image of 0 in the image. So this 0 will be in, will be a 0 matrix in M cross P R. Okay. So basically you have to think of your X as some say X1, X2, etc. to XP, where each Xi's are in Rn. Fine. This is how you should think. These are columns. Okay. So when I say that X is in kernel of phi, so if X is in kernel of phi, that means that Tx is 0, which means what is Tx here? Tx is a M cross P matrix, right? So I write this as 0, 0, 0, 0. This is in M cross P. But what is this left hand side? Left hand side is nothing but Tx1, Tx2, etc. Txp. And that is 0, 0, 0, 0. So basically what I am demanding is that Txi is 0 for each I between 1 to P. Fine. So X is in kernel of phi if Xi belongs to the kernel of T for each I. Now what is the so in this case let me put this, so this T is a map from, so let me not confuse you, so let me define another map, say f of, let me define f from so this is from Xi's are in, X's are in Rn, right? Yeah. So basically what I'm doing is I'm considering individually each columns. So f of Rn, I'm considering X to go to Tx. And your T is, so Tx is, so T is in M cross N and X is now in N cross 1. So your image will be in Rm. Okay, I'm considering this map. So when I say that Txi equal to 0, equal to 0 for every I, I'm demanding Xi belongs to kernel of F for every I, right? Now what is kernel of F? So F is basically a linear map from Rn to Rm, right? Is it linear? Does anyone have any doubt? F of x1 plus x2 is Tx1 plus x2, which is Tx1 plus Tx2, which is f of x1 plus f of x2. It's linear, right? Any matrix multiplication is a linear map. Okay. So F is a linear map. So what does rank nullity theorem say in this case? Kernel of F or dimension of kernel of F. Does I hope you are familiar with the rank nullity theorem?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Rank nullity theorem says that if you have a linear transformation from V to W, where a dimension of V is finite, then rank of your matrix, rank of your linear transformation plus nullity of T is the dimension of V, right? So in this case, you can say dimension of, what is nullity of T? Nullity of T is the dimension of the kernel of T. So in this case, nullity of F becomes dimension of kernel of F, right? And what is rank of F? Rank of F is nothing but the dimension of the image of F, right? I hope you're familiar with the Rank-Limited theorem. Otherwise, you can go and have a look. I'll quickly finish this. So basically, what this is saying is that rank of F plus nullity of F is nothing but n, where n is the dimension of Rn over R. Okay. So what is given for us? So yeah. So our question is, so what is the so let us see our question once. Yeah, the question is, what is the dimension of V? So there are many options: Pn minus rank of T, P into n minus rank of T. So when I say rank of, so this rank of T, you should consider as rank of T in the sense, in this context, it will be R of F. Okay, so T by rank they mean as map from Rn to Rm. Then rank of T is nothing but the dimension of the image of T inside Rm. Okay. So in this case, this is F. So rank of F will be n minus, our nullity of F will be n minus rank of F, which is nothing but n minus rank of T. So what is, so dimension of kernel? So dimension of kernel is n minus R of T. Now, how many such copies are there? So recall that we were demanding that xi's lie in the kernel of F for each of those columns. So what you do in each column, so you have to find a basis. So the aim is that you have to find a maximum linearly independent subset of V. Okay. So if I take so basically we are looking for xi, x1, x2, etc., xp, right? So these xp's should lie in the kernel of F for each of them. And how many choices do we have? Dimension many. How many? What is the dimension? N minus R of T. And how many such choices are there? There are p such choices, right? Suppose the kernel of F is two-dimensional, then you will have one, say some notation I should put, alpha 1 and alpha 2, fine? So then my matrix would be alpha 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So these are all columns, okay? Another choice would be alpha 2, rest all are 0, right? Similarly, now you can put your first column as 0 and put your alpha 1 here and rest all zeros. So if you, this I'm doing for the second column. So similarly, if you do for the pth column, if you do the same thing for the pth column, what will happen is you will either put alpha 1 or alpha 2 here. So here I had assumed dimension is 2. Otherwise, this will go up to alpha 1, etc., up to alpha of nullity of F, which is nothing but, so basically on each column you have a choice of n minus R of T. R of T is the rank of T. And you have p many such columns. So basically dimension of V will be the product of these two quantities. Yeah, I have been little sketchy here, but the point here is that what you have to importantly note is that suppose X is in kernel of V, then this means that each column Xi has to individually be in the kernel of T, where these Xi's are, if you multiply T with Xi, you get the 0 column. Okay, that is your, so now you will see how many linearly independent columns you have for each column. In the sense, so you have kernel of F. How many linearly independent columns you can put for each column? So you have kernel a dimension of kernel many in each column, and then for each column you do that many, and finally you get P into kernel of F many choices you have. So I have given you the idea. You can work it out. I don't think we will have time for more. So with that, I think we can stop for today. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. You may switch off your presentation, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandeep, for the session on linear algebra, vector spaces, and other basic things. I hope that all of you have enjoyed this session. Now it is time for interaction. You may ask your doubts or you can make your comments about the class. So all of you are encouraged to interact. So please introduce yourself. If possible, with video on, you can ask your questions or share your comments. Please.
So basically, so I will just start off. So for students who are seriously preparing for JAM, so I think it's next February, right? So you collect all the previous year's question papers for past 5-6 years, and also for NBHM MSc questions. And if you, for at least for linear algebra, you have Shom's outlines, and start working out problems. And whenever you get stuck in some theory, then you visit your textbooks. And since you have only 1 month left, this will be a good approach to clarify your concepts. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now.
Yes, students.
Yeah, if you want, so maybe if you want, then I can maybe email you. So if you, so I have taken these questions from JAM 2018, 19 and 20, but I could not do everything what I planned. But if you have any questions regarding that, later on also you can email me. You can find my email ID in the ISI Northeast website. If you want, you can email me there.
Sandeep, while you share the today's notes, if possible, you can include your email ID in that.
Okay, fine. So
I think you can share it as a as a PDF. You can.
Okay, fine. But it's not well written. It's just.
Yeah, it's okay. You can just share that. That they can work it out.
Okay. Thank you, Mayuka.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So my name is Satira. I'm a third year BSc student from Kerala. So your class was very helpful. I got to know about the concepts. It was very clear in such a way. Thank you, sir, for the session.
Okay. Nice to hear that. Thank you. So I am also teaching for the first time. So I would like to get more of your feedback also. Maybe I would have, sometimes it would have dragged also. Like I was thinking on the spot. So it might have become boring in between. You can tell those things also.
No, sir, it was helpful. We could also think in the meantime.
Okay, fine. Nice to hear that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would suggest people in Kerala at least to go to KSOM and visit the research scholars there. There are many people who can help you in solving all these questions. Yeah, but you will already be familiar with Arun and all. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Others? See, feel free to interact. No problem. There is no need to stay away. You can simply share your thoughts.
Yeah. So since there are non-Malayalis here, that's why I'm speaking in English. Otherwise,
there are. Yeah, here but there are some. Yeah. Yes. Keshav Sharma, can you introduce yourself and tell something? You are there throughout the session. Very happy that you are interacting always the session. Hello,
Mhm.
Keshav Sharma.
Yes, sir. I really like these sessions, sir. It was very helpful, sir.
Please
Nice.
introduce
Where are you
yourself.
studying? Where are you
Yes,
studying?
I study in DDUC in Delhi University.
Which year
In
are you in?
I'm in third year, sir. Final
Okay.
semester.
Okay.
Okay.
Sir, I'm
Yes.
Srilakshmi. I'm
Yeah.
a first year MSc student at KUSAT. So the class was really good and it was a very good revision for me. And I also liked the problems which I discussed. They were really interesting ones. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. So actually, I had done more problems, but here I have not written them. Maybe if you're interested, I can maybe like put the photos. Maybe I had solved few more problems. If you want, then I can just put the photos also and attach them along with this PDF.
Yes, sir. Please do that.
Yeah, that will be good, Sandeep.
But it will be written in a very sketchy manner. So yeah.
It's okay. They can work it out themselves. That is the way to learn maths. They have to work it out themselves. And if some doubts or some obstacles, then they can refer.
Okay.
Okay, others?
Yes. So I would suggest one thing. So in case, so at least for linear algebra, the best source to learn is from Gilbert's rank. So you have, if you are familiar with MIT Open Courseware videos, there are around 30-35 videos in that. If you get the time, surely listen to all of them. That will give you the geometric interpretation, and it will help you in various computations involving matrices. Because linear algebra is something which you cannot omit in any. As you go for higher mathematics, you will face linear algebra everywhere. Whether you do functional analysis, whether you do number theory, whether you do something in geometry, linear algebra is unavoidable. So, and it's also a standard course in your master's. So it is good to have a thorough foundation for this. And for this, Gilbert Strang's video lectures would be very useful for you.
Yeah, it is available in YouTube, I think. It is available in YouTube.
Yeah. Yes, and it takes some time to...
Okay, yeah. Any others? There are many people. Please feel free to share your comments. It will be really helpful for us, also for improving our future programs, and also for Sandeep. It will be really useful. Yes.
नमस्ते सर, एक्सक्यूज मी, धर्मेंद्र सिंह बोल रहा हूँ मैं.
Yeah, tell me.
हाँ, मैं धर्मेंद्र सिंह से DARC विशाखापट्टनम पे जॉब कर रहा हूँ मैं लाइब्रेरियन के तौर पे. बट आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इन योर लेक्चर वाज वेरी इंफॉर्मेटिव एंड डीप. I am preparing for ATJM also.
Sorry?
Yes, sir.
So you have done BSc in Maths and then joined, or
BSc
what
in
is your background?
BSc in Math PCM.
Okay,
Background
okay.
PCM.
Okay.
Math BSc.
Okay.
So I am doing math myself. I want to prepare for IIT. Should I leave job for this? To do research? Because math is not in DARC. Only physics people do some math.
Vinod sir, would you like to answer?
What actually he asked? I didn't get him.
So from what I understood, he is asking whether to prepare for IIT JAM should he leave his job. And this is what you asked, right, Dharmendra?
Yes, sir.
See, it is, I don't know what to comment there. It is all about your passion and your inspiration and all that. IIT JAM examination will help you to find out some admission to some integrated PhD or MSc programs in IITs and NITs. That is all about it. And other things that you have to decide as per your choice and your situation.
Yeah, if you are young and if you don't have any financial obligations,
Yeah,
like
then
taking
of
care of your
course.
family and all, then of course we welcome you to do it. So anyway, if you are joining at some institute for masters, then you will have to leave your job, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
So if that is a serious plan, then at some point you will have to leave your job.
Yeah.
Correct, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks,
But
sir.
better I would advise, like if I think if you are in library, you will find time, quiet time, and some space for yourselves. You can work it out. You can listen to. You can read textbooks and you can try it out if you can.
Yes.
Maybe you
Yeah,
can go on loss of pay and then you can come back.
yeah. If your aim is only to secure knowledge, then there are many ways. Informal education is very much easier nowadays because almost all the important universities share all their contents free to everyone through the internet. So you may get chance to have lectures by eminent faculties of various universities like Harvard or Oxford. Everything is available now, freely available. But if you want
Yes,
to
sir.
get
Yes.
a job and all that, you have to be more systematic in that. Okay, if you are studying only for
Yes,
the
sir.
sake
Yes.
of knowledge and all that, then you can do in any way, no problem.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Dharmendra Singh. Okay, others, Prasun
Yes, sir.
Baral,
Yes.
are you there, Prasun?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please express your comments, if any, Prasun. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. I am Prasun Boral from uh, Calcutta University. Now I am masters in third semester.
Okay, so then these would be all be familiar for you, right?
Now I am preparing for NET examination and other GATE other.
Okay. Yeah, actually, some problems were good, but I think for whatever we discussed may not be for master's level. It may not be appropriate.
Yeah, anyway, but that
But
will
you can
certainly
anyway
help you
solving
to
IIT JAM question.
revise.
Yeah. But I will say IIT JAM question papers are good. Like you can consider it equivalent to any NET exam question papers also. Means, so some questions are very nice.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
there
I
may
am.
be. Yeah, there may be many challenging questions. So don't consider JAM questions are only for degree students and all that. The topics may be different, but the depth of the questions will be of high standard in many cases.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Prasun. Any others? So, Sandeep, could you explain something about doing MSc in mathematics after BTech? Can you share the experience?
Yeah,
Why you have decided? Why
when
such a
Dharmendra was
choice?
telling, I was like I was reminded of my own situation some 10 years ago. So I was also in similar situation in 2011. I was working in software industry. So at that time, so I was also in similar situation. I wanted to do some. I want to do higher studies in something. So I was interested in mathematics. So I tried, but leaving a job was a very difficult decision. But I took that, and I think that is why I became more serious, and then got lucky to get in this ICER Trivandrum after that. So yeah, and then from there that to take up the research career was my serious plan. So this is what happened. Yeah, so it was almost similar situation.
Yeah, in usual our colleges or in usual universities, it may be difficult for students to get admission for MSc after BTech, I think. But in premier institutes, there will be always they will always open their doors to anyone who's seriously interested.
Yeah, in Kerala, I think everyone requires BSc to do masters in.
Yeah, I think
Central
in other
universities
places also,
also.
in state universities and colleges, it may be the case, I think. I don't know exactly.
The center, I had written the Central University of Hyderabad question exam, so they had allowed me to join if they want. Like so, from their side they were willing. So some Central University also, apart from research institutes, are quite open in this.
I think BTech have opportunities in mathematics because especially in the applied areas of mathematics, the main problem with mathematics students is that they may not have much exposure to the applications of mathematics. So sometimes it may be very useful for BTech. I think BTech students can do wonders if they know the mathematics well. Then they can apply it in the practical cases as well, I think. But I think your
This
area
is
is somewhat a little bit different because you are in number theory.
Mine is in PR and it's in number theory. So yes, of course there are applications like in your. So it's more related to so for example.
If
for
you go for
encryption and all,
cryptography,
prime numbers are very important, and cryptography, yes, as you pointed out. So, but whether you go for any PhD in any branch of engineering, linear algebra is a must. Even computer science, electrical engineering, wherever you are doing, without linear algebra, you cannot go ahead. So, this is a subject wherever you go, you will need even statistics and whatnot.
Very much universal. Okay. Any others? Please, if you have to make any comments or questions, please come forward. Amrita?
One more thing which I would like to say is, tell me.
Sir, it was really nice class, sir. I'm sorry, I could not on my video.
No, that is fine. Yeah. No, the thing is,
topic was also very basic for it was also very much we could understand it very much. That's we could follow it also, vector spaces and matrices and all.
Okay, nice to hear that, because I didn't have enough time to give a background, so I was worried maybe I would have, I'm speaking about things which I have not defined, so it is good to hear that. Yeah.
Especially, it's a really surprise that you have studied BTech.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So one more advice, which in general I would like to give, is that you have to speak more. Then only you will, see the more, it's like there is a proverb in Malayalam. The dog which barks only gets the food which it wants. Sorry, what did I say? Sorry. I think I completely messed up. So my point is that you have to, the one who constantly seeks will only get. I completely messed up.
Yeah. Only the dying child will get that is my word.
Sorry.
We'll get them. Okay.
Yeah, so anyhow, so the more questions you ask, the more you benefit. Yeah.
The Amrita, the girl that asked very to you case.
Oh, where are you studying, Amrita?
I'm studying in St. Joseph's College, Devagiri, Calicut.
Okay, fine. Yeah, you should access KSOM. Go visit there in the weekends, and especially this is JAM. 1 month you have JAM. You are in third year, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go with start solving all previous year questions in BHM, in MSc as well as IIT JAM. Whatever you don't get, go make one weekend visit. Catch hold of Arun or Shyam or some other research scholars who are there. They will make your job easier. Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
there is no others to speak. So let us wind up here. Once again, I extend warm wishes of the year. Wish you all a very happy, healthy, prosperous new year.
Yeah.
Year will be free
Our
from
year
all this
started
COVID
going
pandemic and all that. Actually, 2 years, around 2 years, we have many restrictions due to all this COVID and all that. Let us hope that 2022 bring a more nice atmosphere.
Yeah. But Omicron's Omicron's peak is going to be February, right?
Yeah. That is always there. Thank
Anyhow,
you,
let us
Sandeep,
hope
for
for
spending your
Thank you, sir.
Sandeep,
Thank
for
you, sir,
spending
for the
your valuable time
opportunity.
with us. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Let us hope.
Because,
Yeah. Let us hope.
Please
Let
call
us hope
me
that we
again.
can. We can plan some more sessions with more problems that are suitable for net students as well. We can try. Okay.
Maybe
Thank
in
you,
February
Sandeep.
or something we can see. Okay.
Yeah, we can have it. So, thank you, everyone. Let us wind up here. Thank you.